will cast me off, for I have borne him no children. Now, O Lord God, hear my supplication before thee, and see my affliction, and give me children, like one of the handmaids, that I may no more bear my reproach. And the Lord heard her. He heard her prayer and opened her womb. God opens and closes wombs. God's natural birth control. And God heard her open the womb. And Rachel conceived. And Rachel conceived. And the Lord had taken away my reproach. And she called his name Joseph, saying, May the Lord add to me another son. And Jacob was 91 years old when she bare him. 91. Still strong. These guys didn't quit. 90s, 100 meant nothing to them. At that time, Jacob's mother, Rebekah, sent her nurse, Deborah, the daughter of Uz, and two of Isaac's servants unto Jacob. And they came to Jacob to him, and they said unto him, Rebekah has sent us to thee, that thou should return to thy father's house, to the land of Canaan. And Jacob hearkened unto them in this that his mother had spoken. And at that time the other 7 years which Jacob served Laban for Rachel were completed. And it was at the end of the 14 years that he had dwelt in Haran, that Jacob had said unto Laban, Give me now my wives, and send me away, that I may go to my land. For behold, my mother did send unto me from the land of Canaan, that I should return to my father's house. And Laban said unto him, Not so, I pray thee. If I have found favor in thy sight, do not leave me. He didn't want him to leave because God was richly enriching him, blessing him because of Jacob. And he knew that. That's why he wanted him to stick around. Not that he really cared about Jacob. He cared about the material things Jacob brought. Sound familiar? I have found favor in thy sight. Leave me. Appoint me thy wages, and I will give them, and remain with me. And Jacob said unto him, This is what thou shalt give me for wages, that I shall this day pass through all the flock, and take away from them every lamb that is speckled and spotted, and such as that were brown amongst the sheep, and amongst the goats. And if thou wilt do this thing for me, I will return and feed thy flock and keep them as at first. I'll be a shepherd. These were shepherd kings. And Laban did so. And Laban removed from his flock all that Jacob had said, and gave them to him. And Jacob placed all that he had removed from Laban's flock in the hands of his sons. And Jacob was feeding the remainder of Laban's flock. And when the servants of Isaac, which he had sent unto Jacob, saw that Jacob would not then return with them to the land of Canaan to his father, they then went away from him, and they returned home to the land of Canaan. And Deborah remained with Jacob in Haran, and she did not return with the servants of Isaac to the land of Canaan. And Deborah resided with Jacob's wives and children in Haran. And Jacob served Laban 6 years longer. And when the sheep brought forth, Jacob removed from them such that were speckled and spotted, as he had determined with Laban. And Jacob did so at Laban for 6 years. And the man increased abundantly, and he had cattle and maidservants, and men servants, camels and asses. And Jacob had 200 droves of cattle, and his cattle were of large size and of a beautiful appearance. and were very productive. And all the families of the sons of men desired to get some of the cattle of Jacob, for they were exceedingly prosperous. And many of the sons of the men came to procure some of Jacob's flock. And Jacob gave them a sheep for a man servant or a maid. It was a barter system. A maid servant, or for an ass, or a camel, or whatever Jacob desired. And from them he gave them. And Jacob obtained riches and honor and possessions by means of these transactions with the sons of men and the children of Laban. And the children of Laban envied him of his honor. They're getting jealous here. Always happens, told you that early on. God's true men and women, because they're not material vampires, they're going to usually receive jealousy and envy from those around because of God's blessing. But they put God first, not the material things. The material things they can walk from and mean nothing, like Jacob did early on. Said, take everything. And God replaced 1,000-fold what's taken from him. And in the course of time, he heard the words of Laban, his son, saying, Jacob has taken away all that was our father's, and all that was our mother's, and he has acquired all this glory. And Jacob beheld the countenance of Laban and all the children, and behold, it was not toward him in those days as it had been before. See, when you're down and they're on top, you're okay. But once God prospers us, and further the children of the world, we become greater than them because of God's blessings and trappings that is given to us. The world becomes jealous. And now they become envious, and you know what happens from there on. They're plotting and scheming how to take your wealth that God has given. For doing it God's way. And Jacob beheld the countenance of Laban and all his children. They were jealous and envious. And the Lord appeared to Jacob at the expiration of the 6 years, 6 is the number of man, and said unto him, Arise, go forth out of this land, and return to the land of thy birthplace, and I will be with thee. And Jacob arose at that time, and he mounted his children and wives and all his belongings to him upon camels, and he went forth to go to the land of Canaan, to his father Isaac. And Laban did not know that Jacob had gone from him. He snuck away. For Laban had been that day sheepherd. And Rachel stole all her father's images, idols. And she took them, and she concealed them upon a camel, upon which she sat. And she went on. And this is the manner of images. And taking a man who was firstborn and slaying him, and taking the hair off his head, and taking salt, and salting the head, and anointing it in all. Then taking a small tablet of copper, or a tablet of gold, writing the name upon it, and placing the tablet under the tongue, and taking the head with the tablet under the tongue, and putting it in the house, and lighting up lights before it is bowing down to it. This is the worship that they did, the pagan idol worship. And at that time, when they bow down to it, it speaketh to them in all manners that they ask of it through the powers of the name which is written on it. Remember I said every idol has a demon attached to it, associated with it. So as they would bow down and would light incense and candles to this they would get a word from a demonic entity that, excuse me, they would get a word from a demonic entity that was around, that was attached to this idol, this statue. They're just representation of demonic entities. I don't care if it's what this statue is. It could be a statue of Baal or Moloch or Dagon or any of them pagan idols. But if that idol was in your home or wherever it was, that entity was attached to that, or a representation of that entity that worked for his kingdom was attached to that, where you get a word or manifestation or whatever, like witchcraft, sorcery, all that is the same. All of them have these images and items. That's what he's saying here. And the sons make them in their figures of men, of gold and silver, and go to them in times known to them. And the figures can receive the influence of the stars and tell them future, astrology, in a manner which the images which Rachel stole from her father. And Rachel stole these images, which were her father's, in order that Laban might not know through them where Jacob had gone. So she took the soothsaying, she took the procrastinating. She took the soothsaying idols that would give him information. She thought she was doing Jacob a favor by taking these idols, so that he not could go to the spirits like a crystal ball and find out which way Jacob was headed. So she did it, and her motive for doing it was right. It was just the wrong thing to do. She was right and wrong at the same time, because those images are cursed, and she's taking the cursed thing on their journey with her. And Rachel stole these images, which were her father's, in order that Laban might not know through them where Jacob had gone. And Laban came home, and he asked concerning Jacob and his household, and he was not to be found. And Laban sought his images, see? And Laban sought his images to know where Jacob had gone, and could not find him. And he went to some other images, and he inquired of them, and they told him. The demon entities, minions attached to these images, these items, told him. She didn't get them all. Told him that Jacob had fled from him to his fathers, to the land of Canaan. And Laban then rose up, and he took his brothers and all his servants, and he went forth and pursued Jacob. And he overtook him in Mount Gilead. And Laban said unto Jacob, what is this thou hast done to me, and deceived me, and led my daughters and their children as captives, taken by thy sword? He don't see that as his wives. He see that as still his daughters. He's still enslaving Jacob through the daughters, through the family. Trying to keep him there hostage, but he turned it around. See how the world turns things around? Saying you cheated me when they're cheating you. And thou didst not suffer me to kiss them and send them away. He wouldn't have did it anyway. And send them away with joy. Thou didst steal my gods and didst go away. And Jacob answered Laban, saying, because I was afraid lest thou wouldest take thy daughters by force from me, which he would have done. And now with whomsoever thou findest thy gods, he shall die. And Laban searched for the images, and he examined in all Jacob's tents the furniture, but could not find him. And Laban said unto Jacob, we will make a covenant together, and it shall be a testimony between me and thee, if thou shalt afflict my daughters, or shall take any wives beside my daughters. Even God shall be a witness between me and thee in this matter. And they took stones and made a heap, and Laban said, this heap is a witness between me and thee. Therefore he called the name of their Gilead. Now, he don't want him to take any other wives from anywhere else, because he wants to heap all the blessings from from his daughters and Jacob's wives to himself. That's why he wanted nobody else to get a cut of the action. And Jacob and Laban offered sacrifice upon the mount, and they were there by the heap, and they tarried in the mount all night. And Laban rose up early in the morning, and he wept with his daughters, and he kissed them, and he returned unto his place. And he hastened and sent off his son Bera, who was 17 years old, with Athakapah, the son of Uz, the son of Nahor, and with him were 10 men. And they hastened and went and passed on the road before Jacob, and they came by another road to the land of Seir. And they came to Esau, and said unto him, thus saith thy brother and relative, thy mother's brother Laban, the son of Bethuel, saying, hast thou heard what Jacob thy brother has done unto me? That's one thing about the wicked. They will always get together and start forming alliances to go after God's children. This represents the children of disobedience coming together to go after God's people, children of his word, persecuting the children of God's blessing. Represents children of Satan and this dominion. But they always inform and get together and form an alliance, no matter what. So these you can always get, even if they at odds and enemies, them to put down their own beef, put down their own strife and disagreements with one another, and band together to come after God's people. And that's happening even in today's world that we live in the political realm. The focus is really on snuffing out Christianity. All these draconian medical tyranny laws. Let's do that every day. Wicked people forming alliances that was at war with one another, but will join together on one mission to stop Christ's church. And it's no different here. And you see how they pervert and twist things. Both of these greedy material bandits was only after the material blessings of Jacob. They didn't care nothing about having a relationship with God and his word, and none of that stuff. None of that mattered. Now they only could focus on the here and now. It's no different with the world. If you doing it God's way and God blesses you, the world hates you. They don't care about the prosperity comes, because they're 33 to 3rd synagogue of Satan. They're actors. They don't care about them getting wealth or riches, but they're getting it through the way of the world, through man. But if you're doing it God's way, and he blesses you, Satan hates you, and his minions hate you. And he's going to usually come after you through his minions in the flesh. You can expect that. I've had to deal with it all my life. This is one area I'm expert in. Is God blessed and the haters hate? For doing it God's way. Hast thou heard what Jacob thy brother had done unto me, who first came, who came to me naked and bare, and I went to meet him? Who prospered more in the relationship of meeting Jacob naked and bare? Jacob or you, lady? See, they forget who prospered who because of this relationship. And I went to meet him and brought him to my house with honor and made him. That's because he came in naked and poor, and the world don't mind that. It's when God prospers you that you become him, but doing it God's way. In the purest meaning of being prospered by God, not the perverted meaning. Becoming God to get. I told you about the paradox. You come with a God and do it his way and press into his word and have a relationship with God, whether you get a dime out of it, doesn't matter. But you do it just because of who he is. And we're to worship and praise him. In the ways I told you earlier, including tithes and all. We're doing it his way, but expecting to get nothing from it. That's the paradox. To give and expect nothing from it. Laying up treasures in heaven is what we're supposed to be doing on earth anyway. Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and dust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up some treasure in heaven, where moth and dust does not corrupt, and where thieves do not break through and steal. Where one's treasure is, there will his heart be also. Get my teaching, the bank of heaven. God got a bank in heaven. Everything is just a microcosm on earth. What is in heaven? God got a bank in heaven. We got riches in heaven. Obviously, gold is no problem. The streets are paved with it, so it's worth it. The gold is everywhere. It's worth it. But there's treasures in heaven. There's gems in heaven that ain't on earth. There's a bank account for us in heaven where we have a status symbol of wealth just like we do on earth. There's going to be people that are paupers that get in by the hair of their chinny chin chin and be like the homeless in heaven in tents, the Bible made clear. And there's those who let others have mansions. And to be like the elite of heaven. God made that very clear. Christ made that very clear with the parable of the talents. The 10 talents and the 2 talents. Heaven's going to be the same way. You can have a street that would be equivalent to, in heaven, to the rich and famous, Bel Air, or whatever. Of the superstars of faith that went further into God. And that includes material things and everything else. And God rewarded them in heaven. Judgment seat of Christ. What do you think the judgment seat of Christ is about? It's how getting your crowns, the various crowns that Christ is going to give. My teaching on the crowns of God, the judgment seat of Christ. I can't remember the exact title of the video, but look up either one of those things. This is what heaven is about, time versus eternity. And by teaching holy and wrong, time versus eternity. That's what you should be focused on. Heavenly treasure. And then whatever you get down here, like I said, it's just ladder rank. But not to be attached to it, and don't let possessions possess you. You possess the possessions. Don't let the possessions possess you. Here we go here. If God does bless us material down here, this is going to be the result here. And God blessed him on my account. He got it turned around. He said God blessed. Laban said God blessed him because on his account, not because on Jacob. Jacob's account. Jacob came in naked and broke. That's true. But God blessed Laban because of him feeding and taking care of Jacob. God will be a debtor to no man when it comes to his children. And that's why a lot of people want God's children around, because of the blessings that they see and the prosperity they see, and be in a position that they are to take care of God's people. And they get blessed as a result of it. And Laban, that's all he cared about, his material blessing. And God blessed him on my account, but he got it turned around. And he increased abundantly and had sons, daughters, and maidservants. God blessed him, not Laban. He also had an immense stock of flocks and herds, camels and asses, also silver and gold in abundance. Remember, he came naked into the house. And look how he prospered from nakedness to great wealth. That's why I said it doesn't matter. He gave all that other wealth away. Remember, I said God can prosper you 1,000 times, whatever you lost. He got robbed by his brother Esau, had nothing, lost his millions equivalent back then, and went away with nothing, came to Laban's house broke, and left with many times the money and wealth that, including the cattle and everything else that was added to it, bonuses. That was taken away by his brother. Because he prized the relationship with God over material things. Remember, he went away skipping, happy because of a vision God gave him. That don't worry about it. And then I still got your back, I'm with you. That's the wealth, a personal relationship with God and his word. Now, here's this example. This is a microcosm of the world. He had also an immense stock of flocks and herds, camels and asses, looking at the material stuff, and silver and gold in abundance. He traded that. He used his own business skill. God blessed him, and he made it more. He was a wise steward. And when he saw his wealth increase, he left me while I went to shear my sheep. And he rose up and fled in secrecy. And he lifted his wives and children. Drew up on my camels, and he led away all his cattle and property. Because he was figuring a way to swindle and get it back from him anyway. He acquired in my land, my, I want you to listen to that, split circles around it. And he lifted up his countenance to go to his father Isaac, to the land of Canaan. And he did not suffer me to kiss my daughters and their children. And he led my daughters as captives, taken by the sword. And he also stole my gods, and he fled. Now, no gods were found, even though she did steal them later, but she still didn't find them. And now I have left him in the mountains of the Book of Jasher, and all belonging to him. He lacketh nothing. If it be, if I wish to go to him, go then, and there wilt thou find him. He wants Esau, knowing Esau wants to kill him, to do his dirty work. Unto him, and thou canst do unto him so as thy soul desire. And Laban's messengers came and told Esau all these things. And Esau heard all the words of Laban's messengers, and his anger was greatly kindled against Jacob. Here we go again. Jealousy and envy. And he remembered his hatred, and his anger burned within him. And Esau hastened and took his children and servants, and the souls of his household, being 60 men. And he went and assembled all his children of Seir, the Horite, and their people, and 340 men, and took all the number of 400 men and drawn swords. And he's coming at him with military action after Jacob. And he went unto Jacob to smite him. He said, I'm going to kill Jacob once and for all. Sick of him getting blessed up on me every time I turn around. He's usurped wealth and power from me again. And Esau divided his number into several parts, and he took the 60 men, his children and servants, the souls of his household, as one head, and gave them care of Eliphaz, his elder son. And the remaining heads he gave to the care of his 6 sons of Seir, the Horite, and he placed every man over his generation and children. And the whole of the camp went as it was, and Esau went amongst them toward Jacob, and he conducted them with speed. Let's hurry up and get him. Let's hurry up and kill Jacob. And Laban's messengers departed from Esau and went to the land of Canaan, and they came to the house of Rebekah, the mother of Jacob and Esau. And they told her, saying, Behold, our son Esau has gone against our brother Jacob and 400 men, for he heard that he was coming, and he is gone to make war with him, and to smite him, and to take all that he has, or rob him again. And Rebekah hastened, and sent 72 men from the servants of Isaac to meet Jacob on the road. For she said, maybe Esau may make war in the road when he meets him. And those messengers went on the road to meet Jacob, and they met him in the road of the brook. And on